Good evening, everyone. Welcome to our Breast Cancer Now chat. We're live on Facebook tonight to answer your questions. I'm Katie. I'm one of the clinical nurse specialists at Breast Cancer Now, and I'm going to be joined shortly by Claire, who is the support and engagement manager from Make Seconds Count, and Claire also has a diagnosis of secondary breast cancer herself. So we're going to talk a bit about Claire's experience, but also around the support and offerings that Make Seconds Count have as well for those living with secondary breast cancer. If you have any questions, you can pop them in the chat. We'll work through those through the course of the session, but anything we don't get to, we will get back to you in writing, so don't panic if we don't cover everything tonight. We will get back to you in a written reply tomorrow. We're going to pop a survey in the comments as well, so if you can find time to fill that in, we really appreciate it. Really helps us to tailor these sessions so that they work for you, so that we're covering things that are useful, and yeah, we really value any feedback. Just a reminder that obviously we're on Facebook, so this isn't a confidential space. So if there is anything a little bit more sensitive that you want to ask us about, obviously, if you don't feel happy popping it on Facebook, we have got our helpline. We're open tomorrow from 9 a.m. till 4 p.m. and then we're open on Saturday morning again as well, 9 till 1. That number is 0808 800 6000. So feel free to give us a ring if there's anything that you want to talk through in a bit more of a confidential space. We also have a written inquiry service which you can access via our website, so you can write in if you'd prefer to do that. I think that's probably everything from me, so I am going to welcome Claire.
Hi there.
Hi, yeah.
Okay.
Good. I'm good. Good to have you here.
Thank
Got the
you.
sun
Thanks for
shining
having me.
there, we were just saying.
I know it's very deceiving. It looks like it's been lovely all day here in Glasgow, and I promise it's not. It's been very rainy here, but yeah, just as I've come online, it's made it look as if it's rather glorious here.
I'm a bit jealous. Well, thank you so much for joining us again. I know we spoke back in it's back in October now, so a while
Yes,
ago.
a while ago. Yeah.
Yeah, and we covered loads during that session, and feedback was fantastic. And I know
Yeah.
lots of people that watched found it really, really helpful. So
I'm glad.
you're with us again, and
Yes.
I thought it would be useful to start again, just sort of recapping a little bit about yourself, your sort of story, your experience, because I know that, you know, that people find that really, really helpful. So if you're happy to start there, Claire, that would be
Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah, no problem at all. I was originally diagnosed with breast cancer in 2015. I'd found a lump almost, but I had a swelling in my left breast that was just had me concerned a little bit, shall we say. So I'd gone and tried to get checked and had a few issues trying to get sort of work out what it was. Took a while to get to the breast clinic, blah blah blah. But once I got diagnosed, it was confirmed as breast cancer. So I then gone straight into kind of treatment for primary cancer, which was I had chemotherapy first, then I had some radiotherapy, and then I had a mastectomy after that. Went through all my kind of surgery, everything was fine. But I had a scan at the end just to check, which I hoped would kind of sign me off, if you like, and send me on my way. And unfortunately, at that point, I had confirmed that I had bone mets. There was bone mets discovered in my sternum and in my ribs and in my lower back. I think they'd always been there, but just not picked up originally.
Yeah.
So I didn't have any gap, unfortunately. So I just went straight from primary into secondary treatment. Which
That must have been a huge shock at the time for you.
yeah, I think I was quite scared at the time. I have my only experience of kind of cancer before that was my mum's diagnosis.
Right.
And she died of secondary breast cancer. So that was back in the 90s. So instantly, I guess I just had that fear that
Yeah.
history was repeating itself and what had happened to my mum was going to happen to me. She was diagnosed very young, and I was diagnosed at 38. So I felt like
Yeah.
it was all kind of just history repeating itself.
Yeah.
And kind of just had prepared myself for the cure, I guess, which is what most of us do. So then one good thing about it was I didn't really have a lot of time to mull it over. I had to just go straight into treatment, and the treatment that I had is still the same to this day. I'm very lucky. I'm still on first line treatment, but this is my 9th year of living with secondary breast cancer now, which every time I say that, I always kind of pause a little bit, because it feels like when I remember first being diagnosed, how scared I was and how apprehensive I was about what was going to happen. And now when I think about 9 years, like almost coming up to a 10-year milestone, and I remember having thrown myself a 40th birthday party thinking, will this be the last big party that I have, hence why I had it. So yeah, there was just loads of emotions. My niece and nephew were very young at the time, and I thought I wasn't going to see them grow up, because you're always told about what the statistics are, and some people are told about their prognosis. I didn't ask for that, but I knew what the stats were, and they kind of say 2 to 3 years, 3 to 5 years, and that's kind of what's always in your head. And I think that's the scary thing about it, is that you're almost given a kind of death sentence. Or at least that's how it felt back then anyway. And for me personally, and this is just my experience, it hasn't been that. Obviously, there's been a lot of adjustments. There's been a lot of issues health-wise. There's been, but I'm still on first-line treatment. So hormone therapy. So letrozole is my wonder drug. And it's still working and still doing its thing. They do say it does a lot of heavy lifting, and I feel like that is what it does.
What it's doing,
It's doing its thing.
And did you have any symptoms at all at the time when they obviously did a scan?
Yes.
What led them to do that scan?
I think, as I say, I'd had 6 months prior to what became a very obvious sign with my breast. I'd been struggling with what felt like lower back pain and side pain in my rib. And actually 6 months before that, I was being treated at the physio for what they thought was costochondritis. And I'd had a kind of back injury at work, so they were kind of, I think I just assumed it was all related to that.
Putting it, sure.
But
as
never,
you would, hey?
Yeah, well, I think most people do, unless you have any other issues or symptoms, and it was only really when the breast stuff started to kind of take over everything. As I say, I had a swelling, it was hot to touch, and it became very swollen, almost twice the size of my other breast. And I had kind of shooting pains that were going through my breast a lot. So all of those things started to kind of make me think there's something going on here. And actually, for the first wee while, I think I was treated for all sorts. I had antibiotic upon antibiotic. Mastitis was mentioned, and I was like, I'm not breastfeeding. I don't have children. I don't quite understand that connection. But and when I look back on it now, I keep thinking to myself, why didn't they join the dots about my mum's history? And that it could actually be breast cancer. It runs in the family. But my mum was young when she had it. In fact, she died when she was only 45. But back in the 90s, I don't really think there was an awful lot out there for treating these things. Which is something I've noticed now about the advances and what's happened. But so there were signs, but I don't think I related it to a breast cancer thing until the breast. And then when I got seen, I had an ultrasound, and I had obviously a physical exam and things like that. And then it was basically confirmed all on the same day that I did actually have breast cancer. And then everything moved really quickly. So I can't really fault any of the treatment. Once it was confirmed as to what it was, I just moved straight into everything
Yeah.
that they said I should do, which, as I say, was chemotherapy,
Yeah.
radiotherapy. I had a mastectomy to the left breast.
Yeah.
So, uh,
Yeah.
and kind of then carried on through treatment, lost my hair, was very poorly for a while, had neutropenic sepsis during one of the cycles. So I was quite poorly for a while. And then
Yeah.
I think the chemotherapy stopped because I was just quite poorly. And then moved into what is now my routine, which is hormone therapy and
Yeah.
bone strengthener. And
Yeah.
yeah, I have other
Okay.
issues now for having been on treatment for so long. I'm very lucky in that my cancer's stable and doing well. But I have degenerative disc disease as a result, so I have bulging discs in my
Okay.
back,
Yeah.
which they've put down to the medication and just
Yeah.
the length of time that I've been on it. But I do kind of say I would rather have that and have the treatment and have it work well, because there are
Yeah.
worse things that could then come,
Yeah.
As I say, I am
Sure.
incredibly lucky. I think 8 years on, 8, 9 years on first line treatment is massive.
Yeah.
I don't
It is.
underestimate that, and I know how lucky
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
am. But I think it only does take one drug. It only takes you to find the drug that's going to work for you,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
then hopefully other people would have a similar kind of longevity, I guess, with it.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
so I'm very lucky. I'm aware, and I do, but I've worked hard at the same time, to because mentally, I think it's a
Yeah.
real struggle. I would say mentally for me has been harder than
Yeah.
physically.
Yeah.
I've had a lot of ups and downs mentally, just dealing with the prognosis itself, and the constant uncertainty of even being stable. You still have levels of uncertainty about what you can do, or fatigue's a huge thing, and I think that plays its part mentally. Just not having the stamina to do things, or not having the same abilities that you had before, physically and mentally, and you know, yeah, I think all these things take their toll, and you just have to find a way to navigate.
Find your way, find
That.
your own way, and I guess that's different for
Yeah,
everyone,
and
isn't
I
it?
think it's different for everyone, and
Yeah.
it also comes at different times for people.
Yeah.
Some people may easily slot into moving on and getting on with things. Other people really struggle with that change that comes, and almost the new normal that you have to sort of live your life by. And depending on how physical your treatment is, I'm very lucky in that I don't have a lot of hospital visits. A lot of my tablet, it's all tablet form for
Yeah.
me, so there's an ease and a kind of simplicity to that has then lent itself well to allow me to continue working in the way that I want to
Yeah.
work.
Yeah.
Albeit changes there too. Like I can't do 5 days a week. It's a lot.
Yeah. Sure.
But it's allowed me to make adaptations to what I was doing before, and still manage.
Yeah.
I have good days and I have bad days like everyone. I just hope that there's more good than bad.
Yeah. That's
you know.
lovely.
So
Yeah. I'm sure that brings a lot of hope for people. Thank you
yeah.
for
Well,
sharing that.
that's. I think I was talking to someone about this the other day, and I think you don't often hear the positive
Yeah.
stories.
It's true.
You hear a lot of the negative stories, and I know why. I understand the need for sharing, about the statistics, and there are people who sadly don't live very long with SBC, so those are really important.
Yeah.
But I think when you're in the world of SBC, I felt so much better hearing those stories from other people who are thriving, or who are doing well, or who have a period of time where they've outlived the stats, or they've or they're doing well. That helped me. And I just think sometimes when all you're hearing is the negative, or the kind of stories where the stats sadly are accurate, and in some cases, it can just make living with it more difficult. And there is a real element of quality of life, which is really important.
Yeah.
And I don't know about anyone else, but I don't want to just exist. I want to live my life as best I can.
Yep.
with the changes that I have to make.
Yeah.
And I feel like if you're just existing and just taking your medication, what are you taking the medication for? You know,
Yeah.
it's,
Sure.
and I know not everyone will feel that way, and it is a very personal thing, but in my eyes, I'm not dying.
Yeah.
You know, I'm living. All right, I
Living.
have an
Yeah. Yeah.
incurable illness,
Yeah.
and there will be times where that is tough.
Yeah.
But for me, putting the positive spin on it is what works for me and is what
Yeah.
helps me.
Yeah.
And I like to hope that maybe that would be the same for other people. And if they see people like myself, or like I know lots of ladies and men in our community who are also doing really well. And for me, it's more about those stories of hope that I want to hear
Yeah.
about,
Yeah.
that I want to help encourage,
Yeah.
you know, people with. As I say, everyone's story will be different.
Yeah.
But I think we should all at least start out with that,
Mm.
and then obviously take it as your story
Sure.
unfolds and see
Yeah.
what happens. But
Yeah.
yeah, hope and positivity has always been important to me. Even prior to my cancer diagnosis, I was always quite a hopeful, positive person.
Yeah.
And I have had a few knocks, and I am a very resilient person as a result of that. But yeah, I firmly believe that living with hope and positivity, and not in a toxic way, but just
Yeah.
hopeful and
Hopeful but
honest
realistic.
and
Yeah.
realistic.
Yeah.
I think you can achieve
Yeah.
those things if everything is in your favor. You know,
Yeah.
like as I say, you have to be well on your treatment, and
Yeah.
I get there's a whole load of things that have to fall into place. But if you can get to that point, there's no reason why you can't live well with secondary breast cancer. You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
that's been my experience anyway.
Thank you, Claire. I'm just going to pause there because we've had a couple of questions come
Yeah,
through. So,
no bother.
KG asks, should everyone have a scan after treatment from breast cancer? I haven't had one after all my treatment. So don't routinely scan after treatment unless there's a concern that either someone's particularly high risk or there's symptoms, as Claire mentioned, around the symptoms she had with her bone pain and things. So, yeah, if you're concerned, and I understand, you know, it's extremely worrying when you've come to the end of your treatment, and I think there's a lot of apprehension and fear after that. So have a chat with your team about the sort of rationale in your kind of individual circumstance. But yeah, it wouldn't be a routine thing to do a scan.
Yeah, as you say, I think it's not routine as such. I just had this scan planned
Yeah.
at the, you know, as part of my treatment. But what I would say is there's a lot of information out there now about signs and symptoms
Yeah.
and what to look out for.
Yeah.
And even back when I was first diagnosed, there wasn't a lot of that.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
for some reason it's all very hidden, and I never really understood that. I
Yeah.
understand not wanting to, you know, scare anyone or
Yeah.
not want to kind of have them almost think that they have something when they don't. But I do think it's worth knowing what some of the signs and symptoms are and
Yeah.
areas to look out for, you know.
Yeah.
So for myself, it was a bone pain issue.
Yeah. Yeah.
But there's also things like headaches and vision and
Yeah.
stomach issues. And so I think we all know our own bodies, or at least that's my experience from myself talking to other people, is that you'll know yourself if something's not quite right.
Quite right.
And then it's about going to your team, be it your GP, if it's your
Mm.
first time, or, you know, calling into your oncology team.
Yeah.
And then I think it's up to them to then take that forward for you.
Mm.
But I think just even being aware of what some of the things can be.
Yeah.
But I also know how scary it is. For a long, long time, I thought every little pain and every little niggle was something more serious.
Yeah.
And actually, a lot of the time, it was a pulled muscle or it was a strain. But when you're in that cancer
Yeah, of course.
space,
Yeah.
I think it can be really difficult to differentiate.
Knowing what you should be concerned about and what not. Yeah.
I think that's why it's just
Definitely.
important to be honest and just go to your team with any concerns that you have.
Yeah.
And I'm sure they'll then support you in the next stages, you know.
We've got another, I'm not sure that it's a question here, a comment from Jill. So she says she's currently really frightened. She's had 4 recurrences of regional breast cancer,
Yes.
understands that her cancer is now resistant to aromatase inhibitors and likely tamoxifen. That's really difficult, Jill. I've been told it will come back again. So she's getting histology results tomorrow. And has asked for a second opinion, not because I don't have faith in oncologists, but because I hope someone will help me find a trial. Yeah, that's really, really difficult, Jill, really difficult, to have to have gone through that diagnosis 4 times and be living with that fear.
A lot mentally.
It's a huge amount. And, lots of people ask for second opinions, and I think it's really important to be sure that you're getting all the information. Is there any way I can go for advice? She says, I'm assuming you mean with regards to a clinical trial. I don't know where you are in the country, but the first port of call really would be to have a chat with your oncologist. And it sounds like you've already done that, to see if there are anyone in the area they would recommend. Cancer Research UK have information on clinical trials, and we've got a little bit on our website with some links as well, so you could explore that. And your breast care nurse might be able to help as well. I'd have a chat with your breast care nurse, because they will know sort of specialists in your area where you can have a chat about a second opinion. But it's really important that, especially in a really difficult situation like that, that you're getting as much information as possible.
And I think it's important to advocate for yourself as well. It's important to, to have that voice yourself and understand where you want to go. And I think it's quite positive that you're doing all those things already anyway, and hopefully there'll be someone there on the NHS side who will then guide you and help you. And there's obviously clinical trials that are available for people, but it's just finding the right.
Finding it.
I mean, Make Seconds Count has a clinical trial service, but you would have to be a secondary breast cancer patient to access it. But they certainly have ways to find things like that out for you. But there's other websites out there, I'm sure, that, I know there's a My Tomorrows, or there's a few places that can list clinical trials and things like that. So I think best just to speak to your team and let them guide you, but have that knowledge yourself of what you're wanting out of it, know?
Yeah, lovely. Thank you, Claire. Hopefully that's helpful, Jill. But if you do want to talk it through in any more detail, please do give us a ring tomorrow. It sounds like you're going through a huge amount at the moment, so and it might be helpful just to talk it through with someone impartial. So please do give us a ring. You mentioned there, and we chatted a little bit before, Claire, around being an advocate and building that relationship with your healthcare team, which it is a team approach, I guess, when you're going through, your different treatment, etc., and the diagnosis. And I wondered if you've got any tips for people.
I mean, one thing that I've learned is that there is a big difference between primary treatment and secondary treatment. Secondary breast cancer, almost like when you're having your primary treatment, you're kind of guided through everything, and you're kind of taken through the whole kind of chemotherapy, radiotherapy. There's a structure to it. Secondary, it's a bit more kind of, we have to wait and see, and we have, there's a lot of waiting, and there's a lot of kind of waiting every 3 months for your scan to see if things are working or not. And so it's a very different journey almost. And one thing I think that's quite important is that you do have a good relationship with your oncologist, or, a trusting relationship with your oncologist. Me personally, that's been up and down. But I think it depends on personalities. I think it depends on, I think there's lots of factors. But I think it's also whether you have access to a secondary breast cancer nurse as well, which I think is quite important.
That makes a huge difference.
I think just having them at the other end of the phone that can answer queries that, they're maybe more accessible to you than an oncologist would be. I don't have a secondary breast cancer nurse where I am, where I'm treated, but I know in Glasgow some of the hospitals have them, other hospitals don't. So I think it's almost like, it feels a little bit like a postcode lottery sometimes as to what you have and
Yeah,
what
it's
you
very
don't.
mixed. Yeah.
Which
Yeah.
I think if everybody had access to a secondary breast cancer nurse, I think a lot of things would be easier on the journey of.
Yeah.
Certainly they would allay a lot of fears, I think, a lot quicker. But for me, it's more just, I think you have to trust your oncologist, even if, like, they're the ones that know what's happening medically, and and while you can have an opinion and while you are allowed to ask for things and they should be responsive to that, I think it's really important that you have to trust that person. And obviously, if you don't feel that, then that's another issue entirely, and then that's about other things. But I think trust in your team, because they know what they're doing and they'll steer you in the right direction.
Yeah.
Um, and just be knowledgeable about things. Like, I know you're not necessarily going to know everything there is to know, but you can learn about things, and you can learn about your treatment lines. You can learn about the drugs that you're on and the side effects, and you can give yourself the best possible chance by being as knowledgeable as you can about things. And I would also encourage anyone to join support groups. I would encourage anyone to join, like, Make Seconds Count. I've got a private Facebook group called Seconds Together, and I find that invaluable, not only as the moderator and admin of it, but as a patient myself. There's loads of things that you can learn. And what I like about it is it's shared experiences. So it's people who have lived those experiences or can tell you about those drugs or those side effects, or, they can talk you through a million things, and they can also reassure you if you're having a panicked moment. So I'm in and out of that group every single day. And I can see the help that it gives to people. So I would encourage, even if it's not that group, but just any
reaching
support
out.
group,
Yeah.
reach out to find the right things. And if you're on a particular drug, maybe there's a Facebook group that's relevant to that drug, I would just encourage looking out for all those things. But also in-person support groups. So I know Breast Cancer Now has support groups that are facilitated around the UK, and Make Seconds Count has a series of groups called Teen Chat, which we've got 22 at the moment around the UK. So I think if you're in an area where they have one of those, I would always encourage you to join those. Because again, just not only the local friendships you'll make, but the shared knowledge and the shared information, and just having that, even if it's that once a month, you're going to that place that you trust and it's a safe place. And even if you're not talking cancer all the time, but just having that routine of something and friends is really important. So those things have all been great for me, but also accessing, I don't know, other places like Maggie Centres, or anywhere that can help you with side effects, or issues with your pain meds, or just, there's a wealth of knowledge out there, and there's also
It's
a lot
just knowing where to find it,
help.
isn't it? That's a
Yeah,
sort of job in itself, isn't it?
yeah,
Navigating all of these
I
things.
think so. And even if you can't find an in-person group, there's a lot of things you can do online.
Online, yeah.
We also have a Teen Chat online service, so if you can't make the in-person, come to the and all you need is access to Zoom, and you can sit in the comfort of your own house and access things. So I think anything that can help you, whether it be well-being, whether it be taking up, Make Seconds Count has a good well-being program where it's like yoga or mindfulness or breath work.
I was going to ask you about all of that. Sounds
Yeah,
wonderful,
so,
yeah.
but yeah, I think any and all of those things can help get you back to, if it's not the normal you had before, but it will allow you to sort of move forward in this new life that you're living.
Yeah.
And I think if these services are free, you would be as well utilised. That's what they're there for.
Yeah. Yeah. And sharing those different ideas and ways of managing, and
100%.
feeling less alone.
100%. Yeah, I don't think you can ever really beat that kind of commonality that people have with even if you're joining these groups, you're walking into a room with other people who completely understand your situation. So they may be on a different drug, it may be a different timeline, but they understand living with secondary breast cancer. And I think that in itself is massive.
Yeah.
You don't have to explain anything to anyone. You don't have to share anything that you're not comfortable with, but
Yeah.
you're automatically in a space that get it. And that should never be underestimated as to
Yeah.
what that can do for your confidence and your
Yeah.
your ability to move forward and perhaps start to see things in a different way. That maybe when you're on your own and you're isolated, it's very easy for the poor mental health
Yeah.
to
That
take over
overwhelm. Yeah.
and
Yeah.
become quite overwhelmed with
Yeah.
what is essentially a huge life trauma. And I know that my journey itself, my life got better when I opened myself up to
Yeah.
other
The
people,
support.
which was quite brave for me because I was quite scared of doing that very
I
thing.
was going to say that with if there's
Yeah.
anyone out there that's sort of thinking about coming to a group for the first time, whether it be with the Breast Cancer Now,
Yeah.
either face to face or online, or through Make
Yeah.
Seconds Count or anywhere, what what might they expect, and what
Yeah.
how
I
might that
mean,
be for them?
what I hear a lot is that they're scared of the unknown, which is perfectly normal. But
Yeah.
if I can just talk about Tea and Chat, because that's
Yeah, of
what
course.
we
Yeah.
have.
Yeah. Yeah.
Tea and Chat is very much a friendship group. So it's not facilitated in that there's not a counsellor. So the group host is another community member, so it's another secondary breast cancer patient who comes and greets you and welcomes you into the group.
Yeah.
And it's basically 1 or 2 hours, sometimes 3, where you just meet other people locally. We'll introduce you to the other people who come, and you can talk about your story, but you don't have to feel like you have to share it, because you don't. If all you're really looking for is just that step through the door to meet someone else and to have a kind of almost shared understanding of what it's like for you, I just think it's really important to be brave in that moment
Yeah.
and come through that door. You will have a welcome that will almost envelope you in a kind of like support, because those people that are there understand, and they did that very same thing,
Yeah.
and their life is better for having joined it. A lot of the feedback that we get from our Tea and Chat groups is how important that one appointment that month is to them, and how important it is in their diary, and it's the one time that they prioritise a lot of the time, because they know the benefits that they're getting from it. And when you join those groups, it opens up that other ways that you could live your life. Not everything is suddenly at an end. There might be a bright future that you start to see again, or at least a glimmer.
Yeah.
That takes time. But I think you can't underestimate friendship and how important that is in navigating the journey. And if you do want to talk about cancer, there'll be someone there that can understand. And while they might not be able to give you all the answers, because they are all patients themselves, they'll be able to say, you're not alone. I've had those fears. I've had those issues, and here's what I did. Or, even if they can't, we as the charity can then signpost you to something else that will hopefully help you answer that question. But I just think, similarly with our retreats that we have, people are really scared of like that first move, which is being brave and getting on that train journey, or coming in, and I keep saying to people, please don't let that put you off. It is daunting and it is scary, but I promise that the benefits you have from the 3 days that you spend at a retreat more than outweigh that. And quite often we hear that they're very scared when they walk through the door, understandably so. But when they leave, they're a completely different person, and I just want as many people to experience those things as possible, because I truly believe that that's what helps you move forward with the diagnosis.
And with
and do things again,
with your retreats, what sort of things do they do? What would, if
Yeah,
someone was interested in coming, what sort of
yeah.
activities and
Well,
stuff
essentially,
would you be doing?
again, it's about meeting other people.
Mhm.
So it can be from as little as, say, 16, or it can be one of our bigger
Mm.
groups, which is 34. So
Mhm.
you can meet a whole host of other people. But we bring you together in a space where it's a safe environment.
Mhm.
You'll do crafting, you'll do mindfulness, you'll do some
Mm.
qigong or some yoga, um, and you'll have lovely food. You'll be well treated, and you'll have a lovely. I think a lot of people are scared because they think they're doing a whole load of shared space.
Yeah.
You have single occupancy, so you'll always have your own bedroom, you'll always have your own bathroom,
Yeah.
because we feel that that's really important as a
Yeah.
secondary breast cancer patient, because we know how hard it is to live with
Mm.
the disease, and there's a lot of people would become very easily embarrassed if they had to
Mm.
share.
Mm.
So we've always done single occupancy and always will. But I think what you'll gain from it is just a group of friends
Mhm.
that you then have ongoing even after the
Yeah.
retreat. Every one of our retreats has a WhatsApp group that's created, so you get to know each other in the WhatsApp prior to going to the
Mhm.
retreat. And then it's almost like, oh, you're finally meeting these people that you've
Yeah.
chatted with in
That's
your
lovely
phone.
idea. Yeah.
And then we do a little icebreaker at the beginning,
Mhm.
just to sort of settle everyone in.
Yeah.
And then it's really just about sharing. And,
Mm.
we obviously talk about the services that we have and what else could possibly help you on your journey.
Mhm.
But all of our retreats now also have a clinical trial session. So
Okay.
our clinical trial nurse comes to each retreat and does kind of like an hour, 50 minutes to an hour, where they'll go
Mm.
through generally what clinical trials
Okay.
are.
Yeah.
But this year we've added on a section where we also ask for everyone's subtype, so that we can then group people together who have a similar subtype, and then they're meeting people who are on a
Mm.
similar path, I guess. And then
Yeah.
the nurse will talk to them individually about their subtype. So
Yeah.
we try and encompass a lot of things.
Yeah. Sounds wonderful.
But it's really, for us, first and foremost, it's about the
Mm.
people that you meet and the friendships that you then have in your pocket afterwards going forward, that will then support you, hopefully, on your journey. And every retreat we've had, those WhatsApp groups are still going strong.
Mm.
And
Mm.
we've been doing retreats since 2021.
Mm.
So it makes a massive difference, especially if you're having a wobble,
Mm.
especially if you've had some bad news, or even if you want to share in your good news.
Mm.
You have almost that group that you've met, that you've bonded with.
Yeah.
And that, I always think that it also in turn helps you when you go back home, because
Mm.
you have a fresh outlook, and then your family see that fresh outlook, and because your family is always going to be the ones that worry about you, and
Yeah.
but if they see you looking at things slightly differently, that
Yeah.
will help them as well. And
Yeah.
I think that's
That
massive
sort of
as well
knock-on
in a lot of
effect,
ways,
isn't it? Mm.
Yeah, it makes all
Mm.
the difference. It really does.
Mm. Yeah. Okay. Lovely. Athena's just popped, said she what's the retreat. Sorry, joined a bit late. Athena, you'll be able to watch this back if you want, so we won't go through it again. So feel free to watch it back, and we will put some links in as well, so you can click through and have a little read about
Yeah.
it. But it sounds wonderful. So
Yeah, our retreats are announced at the start of every year. So
yeah.
what we do is we announce them at the beginning of the year,
Mm.
and then you basically hopefully have the luck of the draw, and you're picked for
Mm.
one of the 5 or 6 retreats we
Oh,
have, and then
okay.
we run them through the year. So
Amazing.
we'll do them
And
again next year, hopefully.
yeah, that sounds amazing. Um, and we've got just a little bit of time left. I know you mentioned that you've got your summit coming up, or Make Seconds Count have got their
Yeah,
summit, so I thought it'd be
yeah,
nice to sort of
yeah.
mention that as well, Claire.
Well, we did the summit for the first time last year.
Yeah.
Hugely successful. We had, I think, about just over 100 in-person patients who came along. So it's the first conference of its kind that's got the patients at the forefront. So it's a medical conference, but it's
Mhm.
laid out in the way that patients will understand. So
Mm.
we have oncologists, we have nutritionists, we have exercise specialists,
Mm.
but it's all done with the audience in mind, who are
Mm.
community and patients.
Yeah.
And it's for them to gain knowledge of what's currently going on in the SBC world,
Yeah.
and again, to meet people in a similar
Yeah.
situation, and to bond with those people, and hopefully
Mm.
then create those relationships. So as I say, we did it for the first time last year, which was really successful,
Mhm.
and it's back again. It's actually next week, not
Next
next week,
week,
sorry,
isn't
the
it? Yeah.
16th to the 18th of
Yeah.
June. So so I'll be there again helping out with the team. And yeah, I think this year we've actually got more. So I think we've got more than 110 attending, but we've also got healthcare professionals attending this year. So nurses, we've got obviously some carers can come, and there's a 2 or 3 day program, basically full of oncology, full of exercise, full of nutrition. We've also got breakout sessions where you can pick a topic and go
explore.
Basically everyone is all under the one roof, so there's accommodation included as well, so everyone's in the same venue space, so that makes it easier as well. So but I thoroughly, even if you haven't got an in-person place, can I encourage everyone to sign up for the online registration, because we are live streaming the full conference, so you can watch it live or you can watch it later at another date, but you have to register to be able to get that. So I think you've got that link, so I would just encourage anyone
we'll pop the link in
who isn't going in person to please sign up and watch it from the comfort of your own home with a cuppa, and you'll get all the same benefits as those who are in person. You'll get all that same knowledge. But yeah, we're really excited about it. As I say, it's growing even from last year. I know the team members here at M2C, I haven't been involved in the kind of planning of it, but we've had people behind the scenes who've worked really, really hard on it, and it's going to be another great session. So we've got a retreat next week in Wales, and then a summit in Liverpool. So we're a busy team, but we love it. So
doing great work.
We just want to help as many people living with secondary breast cancer to find what's going to work for them and help them cope and live a better life if you can, better quality of life. And get as many tips and pointers as possible. That's what it's all about at the end of the day.
That's amazing resource to have. Thank you very much, Claire. We have had a few other questions in, but we're a bit short on time, so I did mention at the beginning, but anyone that we've not got round to answering, we will answer in writing tomorrow. But equally, if you would like to speak to someone, then our helpline's open tomorrow morning as well, and I'll give that number in a bit, but it's also we'll pop it in the comments. So if you really want your question answered, then giving us a ring will be a really good idea, and we can talk through with you properly
and
about that.
My inbox is always open if anyone
needs
me for anything or needs me seconds count for anything. You know where we are.
But
thanks for having me again.
That's all right. So just we'll sort of wrap up. Just a reminder for anyone watching, we have got a survey, so we'll have popped that in. As I say, we really, really do appreciate your feedback. We very much guided by what you need. So if you can spare the time, we really do appreciate that. I'll just repeat the helpline number. As I say, any questions we didn't get round to, or if this has sparked anything you want to talk through with us, we're open tomorrow at 9, so you can ring us on 0808 800 6000. But as I say, we will do a written reply to any questions that we've not got back to as well. So thank you very much, Claire. It's been really lovely to chat to you again.
Really nice.
Thank you for your time.
No problem. Take care, everyone. Bye.
Bye, everyone. Bye.